Its analysis embarks on a critical examination of a complex and often contentious topic: the perceived prevalence of narcissistic traits, self-unawareness, and accountability deficits among the segment of the baby boomer maternal generation. Our objective is not to generalize or condemn, but to investigate the socio-historical and psychological factors that may have contributed to these observed patterns. We aim to foster understanding, discussion, and ultimately, therapeutic insight. This inquiry adopts an academic and investigative lens, seeking to understand the systemic influences rather than individual failings. We will explore the cultural currents, economic realities, and evolving psychological paradigms that shaped the formative years and parenting styles of boomer mothers. This exploration is crucial for adult children seeking context, therapists navigating intergenerational dynamics, and researchers studying societal shifts. Before proceeding, it is essential to establish a working definition of the terms central to our discussion. Narcissism, in this context, refers not necessarily to a clinical disorder, but to a spectrum of traits. These include an inflated sense of self-importance, a pervasive need for admiration, a lack of empathy, and a preoccupation with personal success or appearance. Lack of self-awareness implies an inability or unwillingness to accurately perceive one's own thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, particularly their impact on others. Accountability, conversely, involves acknowledging responsibility for one's actions and their consequences. The absence of these traits can profoundly affect interpersonal relationships, especially within the family unit. The baby boomer generation, born between 1946 and 1964, came of age during an unprecedented era of economic prosperity and societal optimism in many Western nations. This post-World War II boom fostered a sense of limitless possibility and upward mobility. Material comfort became an attainable standard, often surpassing the experiences of their Depression-era parents. This period also saw the rise of consumer culture, where personal fulfillment was increasingly linked to acquisition and status. The narrative of progress and individual achievement became deeply ingrained. These environmental factors laid a unique groundwork for identity formation, distinct from previous generations. The parents of the boomer generation, often referred to as the silent generation or the greatest generation, typically emphasized duty, sacrifice, and conformity. Their parenting styles were often authoritarian or traditional, prioritizing obedience and collective well-being over individual emotional expression. Emotional repression was common, and overt displays of affection or vulnerability were less frequent. Boomer children, therefore, grew up in homes where emotional needs might have been implicitly or explicitly downplayed. This environment could have fostered a compensatory drive for recognition and validation in their own lives. It also meant they often lacked models for healthy emotional processing and self-reflection. The 1960s and 70s ushered in a profound cultural shift towards individualism, self-expression, and personal liberation. This era challenged traditional norms and encouraged a focus on individual needs and desires. The burgeoning human potential movement and later, the self-esteem movement, further amplified this focus. While these movements had positive intentions, they sometimes inadvertently fostered an overemphasis on self-worth without sufficient grounding in empathy or social responsibility. The message often became about feeling good about oneself, sometimes at the expense of critical self-assessment or understanding others' perspectives. This cultural zeitgeist significantly influenced how boomer women perceived their roles and identities. Boomer women navigated a complex landscape of evolving gender roles. They were often raised with traditional expectations of domesticity and motherhood, yet simultaneously witnessed and participated in the feminist movement's push for greater equality and professional opportunities. This created a tension between societal expectations and personal aspirations. For some, motherhood became a primary avenue for self-fulfillment and identity, sometimes leading to an over-identification with the maternal role. The pressure to be a perfect mother, coupled with the individualistic ethos, could have inadvertently fostered a self-centered approach to parenting. The child might become an extension of the mother's ego, reflecting her success or failures. A mid to late 20th century also saw an explosion in mass media and advertising, which increasingly targeted individual desires and aspirations. Commercials and popular culture often promoted images of idealized lifestyles and personal gratification. This constant bombardment of messages reinforced the idea that personal happiness and success were paramount. This media environment could have contributed to a heightened sense of entitlement and a focus on external validation. The emphasis shifted from community contribution to individual achievement and appearance. Such pervasive cultural messaging can subtly shape an individual's worldview and their expectations of life and relationships. Given these historical and cultural currents, the observed lack of self-awareness in some boomer mothers becomes more comprehensible. If one's formative years emphasized external validation, personal achievement, and a degree of emotional suppression, the internal mechanisms for critical self-reflection might not have fully developed. The cultural narrative often prioritized projecting an image of success and happiness. Furthermore, if their own emotional needs were not adequately met in childhood, they might struggle to recognize and address the emotional needs of others, including their children. This can create a blind spot regarding their own impact on family dynamics. The focus remains on their own experience, often without acknowledging the perspectives of others. The difficulty with accountability can also be traced to these foundational elements. If one's identity is heavily invested in being good or successful, admitting fault or taking responsibility for negative outcomes can feel like a profound threat to that identity. The individualistic ethos might also foster a belief that one is solely responsible for their own destiny, and therefore, any criticism is an attack on their competence. Moreover, if emotional processing was not modeled or encouraged, the discomfort of confronting one's own mistakes might be overwhelming. Defensiveness or projection can become coping mechanisms to avoid this internal discomfort. This avoidance prevents genuine introspection and growth, perpetuating cycles of blame. The patterns discussed have significant intergenerational consequences. Adult children of mothers exhibiting these traits often report feelings of invalidation, emotional neglect, and a struggle with their own identity and boundaries. They may carry the burden of their mother's unacknowledged emotional needs or unresolved issues. For therapists, understanding these socio-historical factors is crucial for providing effective support. It allows for a more nuanced perspective, moving beyond individual pathology to consider systemic influences. This broader context can help adult children process their experiences and develop healthier coping strategies. This analysis has sought to illuminate the complex interplay of historical, cultural, and psychological factors that may have contributed to the observed traits of narcissistic tendencies, lack of self-awareness, and difficulty with accountability in a segment of the boomer maternal generation. It is a sociological study, not the personal indictment. By understanding the forces that shaped this generation, we can move towards greater empathy, not just for those affected by these dynamics, but also for the boomer mothers themselves, who navigated a rapidly changing world. This understanding is a vital step towards fostering healthier intergenerational relationships, promoting self-awareness across all ages, and encouraging a culture of genuine accountability. Further discussion and research are essential to deepen our collective insight into these profound human experiences.